We've had requests for the final of our videos looking at potential questions that could come up on the A-level ethics paper next. So it'll be paper 3 of the Eduqas A-level. So as always, we've got a table here that shows all the questions that have been asked in previous ethics exams. They are AF papers, A2 papers, and the sample paper. It's worth remembering that nobody has ever sat the sample paper. So if something's going to be repeated, I guess it's going to be from there. And we did see on the Christianity paper that there were some questions from the sample paper that were repeated, and the questions were very, very similar. And so it's worth you going to have a look at the sample paper that I have tweeted this evening, because there are mark schemes on there for both philosophy and ethics. So we have got a section for each theme, and then each sub-theme is colour-coded. So theme 1A is Divine Command Theory, and that's in red, and that was on the AS 2018 exam. Now the students who sat the AS exam in 2018 will be sitting your A2 ethics exam, so that's very unlikely to appear again, but not impossible. Theme 1B is Virtue Theory, and that was asked in the AS 2017. Theme 1C was Ethical Egoism, and of course LYtchett students will know that we've been waiting for that to come up. We were hoping perhaps it was going to be on the A2 paper for you guys. Theme 1D is Naturalism. Now this is one that has come up, but it's only come up on the sample paper, so it is worth having a look at that in your revision. Theme 1E is Meta-ethical approaches intuitionism, and that has not been asked, so that is a top tip for revision. And then theme 1F is emotivism, and that came up on last year's A2 paper. So if we scroll down, and LYtchett students, you have got this document emailed to you. Sometimes you spot things that I don't see, so please tweet or message me if you can spot that I have missed something. Particularly for philosophy and ethics, because I don't teach these sides of the A-level, and so you guys pick up little subtleties that I sometimes miss. So I would say that the big tip for theme 1 is intuitionism, because that has not been asked at all. You can see it's a big gap in the spec. But then after that, I would say naturalism. Okay, and you can have a look at the mark scheme for naturalism on the sample paper. Then if we go back to theme 2, so theme 2 is deontological ethics. Theme 1, of course, was ethical thought. And again, I've colour-coded them so that you can see when a sub-theme is either repeatedly being asked, as theme 2A is, which is Aquinas' natural law. Look, that has been asked all over the place. Or where there is a sub-theme that has been missing, and therefore that is more likely to appear on your paper. So theme 2A, Thomas Aquinas' natural law, and that's precepts as basis of morality, and that's been asked an awful lot. Theme 2B, and there is some overlap between theme 2A and theme 2B, is the role of virtues and goods in supporting moral behaviour. Again, Thomas Aquinas' natural law, and that's in green. And you can see how, just like the philosophy paper, they're starting to put sub-themes together. So that was asked, if I scroll to the top of the page so you can see, AS 2017, AS 2018, so not on an A2 paper. Then theme 2C was an application question on abortion, and LYtchett students will know that we've had a real focus on application questions because we've been waiting for those to appear. Theme 2D is Finnish natural law. That has only been on a sample paper. And so although it's tested, it's not been tested by real live candidates. So worth remembering. But the two big tips are theme 2E and theme 2F. So that is Who's on proportionalism, and then application questions on finis and hus, which is immigration and capital punishment. So if we go down here again, you can see that for theme 2, the big tips are hus proportionalism, never been tested, finis and hus application, and out of those it does look like that it would be more likely to be a hus application question because he's missing here. However, they could combine finis and hus and put it with either immigration or capital punishment. And then the other gap in the spec is euthanasia with natural law. So to repeat, proportionalism, finis and hus applied questions. Hus is more likely than finis, but they could combine the two. And then natural law, euthanasia. Then, if we carry on and look at theme 3, which is teleological ethics, you can see this one has been tested quite heavily, and theme 3 has appeared in part A twice. So theme 3A is Joseph Fletcher, situation ethics, and it's his rejection of other forms of ethics, and sort of the basis of his ethical theory, and that has been asked twice. But again, with the Fletcher questions, there's some sort of overlap between 3A and 3B. 3B is the boss principle basically, and that was asked, and the working principles, and that's been asked here in the AS paper that's just gone. Theme 3C has been asked here. 3C is an application question. Now remember, the two application topics are homosexuality and polyamorous relationships. So polyamorous relationships is still untested. Theme 3D is classical utilitarianism. So that's ACT utilitarianism with Bentham. That has been asked on the AS papers and also, but never on an A2 paper. So that is worth bearing in mind. Theme 3E is John Stuart Mill and rule utilitarianism. That was on last year's A2 paper and also on a previous AS paper. And theme 2F is an application question, and again, only one of the application topics has been asked. So nuclear weapons is an untested topic. So if we have a look here at the theme 3 summary, and again, LYtchett students have got this. Nuclear weapons with utilitarianism is a likely one to appear, and an applied situation ethics question on polyamorous relationships. So applied utilitarianism, nuclear weapons, applied situation ethics, polyamorous relationships. So that's theme 3. Theme 4 is the A2 only content, and so this is much less tested than the other topics. However, because it formed part A last year, it's more tested than the A2 stuff on philosophy and Christianity. So theme 4A is Augustine, which has been asked along with Calvin on the sample paper. Okay, it is worth looking at that sample paper for ethics because a real life student, a living one, has never sat that. Okay, theme 4B is concepts of determinism. That was asked here. Theme 4C is the implications of determinism, which was asked here. And again, you can see how they have combined two sub-themes there. Theme 4D is untested. So that's Pelagius on free will and Arminius on free will. That would be my top tip. Concepts of libertarianism was asked on the last A2 paper, along with implications of libertarianism. So, although theme 4 is relatively untested, the one thing that's jumping out at me is here, which is religious concepts of free will with reference to the teachings of Pelagius and Arminius. but perhaps have a look at this sample paper as well on predestination, Augustine and Calvin. Before we finish, I just want to remind you that I don't know this. I teach about prophets, but I'm not a prophet. I've got no insider information. They are not going to do an exam paper that just tests on gaps, because then they've got no other gaps to fill in future years. So there will be topics that I've glossed over here because they've been tested, but they will appear on your actual exam paper. So just to run through, in theme 4, Pelagius and Arminius is the hot priority, but have a look at this sample paper on Augustine and Calvin. Theme 3, please remember there's never been an act utilitarianism question on an A2 paper. That might be worth looking at. But polyamorous relationships for situation ethics is a top tip. And actually, situation ethics has never been asked on an A2 paper. And nuclear weapons with utilitarianism. Theme 2, Finis and Huss applied questions, or Huss on his own, which means Huss applied is more likely than Finis applied. And then natural law on euthanasia. Theme 1, intuitionism is the big tip there because it's untested. But naturalism is on the sample paper, so please go and have a look at that. Don't forget to check our other playlists on YouTube. I've saved lots of revisions for you and put them all into themed folders, so please check those out too.